It's been building for months, but finally it's here. Starrcade 84. Thanks for tuning in to another special episode of Tyler Vance Rants. I am your host, Tyler Vance himself, and you're not. It is November 22nd, 1984. And while in 1984 it was Thanksgiving Day, tomorrow in 2023 is Thanksgiving in the United States, even though real Thanksgiving was celebrated back in October. But I digress. Let's get right into the action. Bob Caudle and Gordon Solie greet us on commentary and call the action while the event gets started off in grand fashion to a light show. Just wait until these folks hear about a thing called pyro. It'll blow their minds. The first match of Starrcade is for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Challenger, Denny Brown, looks to usurp champion Mike Davis. Someone by the name of Earl Hebner is the referee in charge of this match, but it's doubtful that he'll be known for much in his time. Two flying head scissors transitions into an arm drag takedown, which leads to a shoulder lock for Brown as the match gets underway. Denny Brown then tries to lunge at Mike Davis, who drops to the mat, which results in Brown spiraling out of control outside of the ring. Mike Davis must have forgotten that his championship was on the line because he even goes outside of the ring to help his challenger back in. Hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt you, dummy. Two body slams are employed against Brown once the duo are back inside the squared circle before a backbreaker secures a 2 count for Davis. The NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion then Irish whips the challenger into the corner, but Denny Brown is able to respond with a forearm. Both men collide moments later, but Denny Brown is the first to get to his feet and whip the champion this time into the corner. Brown tries to whip Davis again, but is reversed into a back suplex while both men's shoulders are on the mat. This of course leads to a pin, and as Hebner counts, Denny Brown is able to get his shoulder up just before the 3 count.
And still champion, Mike Davis!
The ring announcer states that Mike Davis retains the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship, but Earl Hebner is visibly awarding that championship to Denny Brown. You can even see here via the replay footage that Mike Davis had his shoulders flat on the mat, while as you saw, Denny Brown got his right shoulder up. So, Earl Hebner is correct. Denny Brown is the new NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. Oh, come on, don't embrace. Davis, you're your own worst enemy because you valued sportsmanship more than your own championship, fool. Mr. Ito takes on Mr. Personality, Brian Adidis, one-on-one next, and the early moments of the match are spent as each competitor feels the other out, each vying for control. The duo apply several holds against one another before Adidis is able to lock on a shoulder lock, even keeping it cinched in following a body slam attempt from his opponent. Moments later, Brian Adidis is able to get Mr. Ito up in the air for an airplane spin for a quick win. Mike Graham takes on the NWA Florida State Heavyweight Champion Jesse Barr in singles action next. The championship is on the line, and the challenger is able to get a drop toe hold on the champion, who manages to wiggle his way out of it by latching a chin lock onto the challenger before transitioning that into a wrist lock. Mike Graham fights out of this predicament with an elbow, but soon later finds himself back in the same position and at the mercy of Jesse Barr. The hold is released, and Graham is able to Irish whip Barr into the corner, taking the champion down with another drop toe hold and attempting to place him in a figure 4 leg lock. However, Barr is able to wriggle free. The champion then wraps a headlock around the challenger, taking him down to the mat and getting a near fall. Mike Graham fights out of the hold and begins to work over Jesse Barr's legs in preparation for another attempt at a figure 4 leg lock, which this time he's finally able to employ. Jesse Barr is the NWA Florida State Heavyweight Champion though for a reason, and he's able to get to the ropes. And as he gets to his feet, Mike Graham shoves Earl Hebner. This proves to be a mistake, as even though Mike Graham is then able to roll Jesse Barr up for a 3 count, Hebner misses it because he's been knocked silly. Graham gets desperate and he employs an atomic drop on Jesse Barr. However, Barr then responds by simply knocking his opponent over, and 1, 2, 3, Jesse Barr retains the NWA Florida State Heavyweight Championship. Good job, Mike Graham. You played yourself, you moron. The Zambuie Express, accompanied by their manager Paul Jones, who we'll see in just a few short moments again, takes on the team of Jones's former associate, Assassin Number 1, and his partner, Avalanche Buzz Tyler, in a tag team elimination match next. For those not in the know, allow me to explain what that means. If one member of a respective team gets pinned, submits, disqualified, counted out, whatever it may be, they head to the backstage area while their partner continues the match alone. And this continues until both members of a respective team are eliminated. All 4 men start the match off with a flurry of fists, which results in the Zambuie Express retreating outside of the ring to strategize with their manager. Once back inside the squared circle, Buzz Tyler and Mr. Kareem Muhammad go at it again. However, a single fist from the Avalanche once more sends Mr. Muhammad outside of the ring. Moments later, Mr. Elijah Akeem is tagged in, as is Assassin Number 1. And it's not long before Mr. Akeem faces some trouble in enemy territory, so he too is forced to escape outside of the ring to talk strategy with Paul Jones. All 4 men wind up in the ring a second time and brawl, while the 2 legal men at the time, Avalanche Buzz Tyler and Mr. Elijah Akeem, take their brawl outside and get counted out. That leaves Assassin Number 1 and Mr. Kareem Muhammad as the 2 remaining members of their respective teams. However, it doesn't last much longer for Paul Jones's client, as Assassin Number 1 surprisingly outsmarts his opponent and secures the victory for himself and Avalanche Buzz Tyler. Hey, after being fired by Paul Jones, Assassin Number 1 really needed this win. We take a break from in-ring action for the moment as backstage, Tony Schiavone attempts to interview the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, who is preparing for his upcoming match for $1 million and also the NWA World Heavyweight Championship by taking a nap. Don't get up on our account, Rhodes, you tub of lard. Schiavone asks if this is the biggest night of the American Dream's career, prompting Dusty Rhodes to state,
"The talking is over. There's no more talking."
And then finishes the interview by stating,
"You are gonna be yesterday's newspaper." That's it.
Next up is another championship match. This time, the NWA Brass Knuckles Championship is on the line, as current co-holder of the NWA World Tag Team Championships, the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, takes on the current co-holder of the NWA Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Championships, Black Bart, who's accompanied by his manager, James J. Dillon. Considering that this is for Black Bart's Brass Knuckles Championship, I guarantee you that this is not going to be a scientific masterpiece, as there are no disqualifications, and each man begins to absolutely lay into each other once the bell rings. It's not long before Manny Fernandez is busted wide open, so Black Bart hones in on the wound and even bites at it to make it worse for the raging loser. Fernandez fights back with an elbow and sends Bart over the top rope with a right hook, prompting Dillon to rush to his client's aid and give him some much needed advice. However, I don't know if the champion heard, because he is now also bleeding profusely. Back in the ring, another right fist from Manny Fernandez knocks the champion down, so the challenger follows it up with a splash, getting a 2 count. The 2 men continue to bludgeon each other until Black Bart is able to hit an elbow of his own on Manny Fernandez, resulting in another 2 count. Unsure of how to keep the raging loser Manny Fernandez down for 3, Black Bart then turns to his manager and asks him for the bull rope in James J. Dillon's hands, shoving the referee as the official attempts to complain. Just shut up and count the falls, you goof! Your opinions are meaningless! While taking the rope from his manager, Manny Fernandez rolls up Black Bart, and that goof referee counts to 3, effectively screwing over half of the Long Riders. That referee is lucky that we're backstage once again, because I have half a mind to verbally rip him to shreds. Instead, Tony Schiavone speaks to Ricky Steamboat, who's mentally preparing for his upcoming NWA Television Championship match against the champion, Tully Blanchard. Steamboat says that he's been incredibly frustrated as of late and is in a lot of pain thanks to the attack from Tully Blanchard this past Saturday. An attack you provoked, I might add.
And everybody has seen over the past few months of what I've had to go through with this man.
Don't play the victim. Despite the pain, Ricky is going to shove all of that aside so he can focus on his dream of becoming the next NWA television champion.
Mentally, I'm going to try and just throw the pain out of my mind, gear everything towards Tully Blanchard, but I'm going to go in there and I'm going to give it my best shot.
In your dreams, pal. Tony Schiavone's next interview is with the NWA television champion himself, Tully Blanchard, alongside James J. Dillon, who is not in a good mood considering that Black Bart was just screwed out of the NWA Brass Knuckles Championship thanks to the actions of a scornful referee. Dillon feels that there is a conspiracy and that people are purposefully slandering himself, the Long Riders, and even Tully Blanchard. It's true! The conspiracy goes all the way to Jim Crockett Jr. himself. According to Tully Blanchard, Ricky Steamboat has been doing nothing but making excuses and pulling strings in an effort to gain any kind of advantage and come away with the NWA Television Championship.
You've got to make excuses. You've had to make excuses over the last 3 or 4 months, and now you've got a hurt rib or hurt back, and you want to cry. Broken ribs or not, you're going down. Tully Blanchard is on a path of destiny.
The long war that Paul Jones has waged against the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, comes to a head next as the duo face off against one another in a tuxedo street fight. The loser of the match is going to be forced to leave Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, and to ensure that there is no funny business, Paul Jones has brought Mr. Elijah Akeem with him, while Valiant himself has brought that masked moron, Assassin Number 1. There is no disqualification in this match. It is a street fight after all, and immediately Paul Jones begins to play mind games with the minimal brain cells that Jimmy Valiant has, by getting onto his knees and beginning to act as if he's truly scared of the Boogie Woogie Maniac. Valiant produces a rope and begins to strangle Jones with it, even going so far as to tie his opponent's head to the top ring rope. Jimmy Valiant then takes complete advantage of the situation and goes to town humiliating Paul Jones, ripping his tuxedo to shreds and gets the man down to his underwear. "You're disgusting, Valiant." Mr. Elijah Akeem agrees with me and begins to give Jimmy Valiant a piece of his mind, which allows Paul Jones enough time to free himself and attack Valiant from behind. Despite this, the Boogie Woogie Maniac manages to fight back and even is able to latch a sleeper hold onto his now bleeding opponent. Mr. Elijah Akeem once more tries to go to his manager's aid, but Assassin Number 1 unnecessarily inserts himself into the match and begins to attack half of the Zambuie Express. Keep your hands to yourself, you rotund goof! During the chaos, Paul Jones's good friend James J. Dillon rushes down to the ring for his friend's aid and hits Jimmy Valiant with a foreign object right in the head. Valiant falls hard, and all Jones has to do is simply crawl on top of his opponent, and you're gone, Valiant! Get the hell out of here! The evil has been defeated! It is time to celebrate! Woo! As Tony Schiavone interviews the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, backstage, and Flair states that when he gets into the ring later on in tonight's main event against the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, the animals in the crowd and those of us watching on TV will know that we are watching the best professional wrestler in the world today. Up until recently, I'd have disputed that fact. But Ric Flair has seen the error of his ways and realized that pandering to those animals is just a waste of time. Flair is the best. The Nature Boy knows that his opponent, Dusty Rhodes, is watching this interview. I don't know, he seemed to be in a sugar-induced coma last time we saw him, and warns the American Dream to be ready because he's about to face the fight of his life.
Dusty Rhodes, you lay over there as laid back as you want to, Daddy. I know you're watching me right now. You're jumping on the #1 stud in all of professional wrestling.
Another championship is on the line next. Challenger Dick Slater looks to take the NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship from the champion Cowboy Ron Bass, who is accompanied by his manager James J. Dillon. And good thing too, considering that Slater gets in the champion's face before he's even ready to compete. If Dillon hadn't rightfully complained to the referee in charge, who knows if the official would have done his job properly. As the bell rings, Dick Slater starts the match off with a fury, knocking Ron Bass down with an elbow before diving outside of the ring and chasing down James J. Dillon. This is uncalled for. The conspiracy is true. Dick Slater has been paid off by Jim Crockett Jr. to eliminate James J. Dillon. Ron Bass tries to elbow Slater, who ducks, and once more goes after Dillon. Thankfully, Ron Bass is able to finally hit Slater with a second elbow, but misses a third one, which allows the challenger to latch a headlock onto the champion. Slater then employs an atomic drop and rams his head into Ron Bass's head while Bass is near the ropes. However, the Cowboy is the NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Champion for a reason, and he responds with a knee lift before slamming Dick Slater's head into the turnbuckle multiple times. Dick Slater then gets caught up in the ropes, so James J. Dillon is able to exact some revenge. A beautiful suplex from Ron Bass then secures him a near fall moments later before the champion follows it up with a bulldog on the challenger. Dick Slater is then sent outside of the ring yet again, where once more James J. Dillon gets his, putting the boot to Dick Slater before throwing that piece of trash back into the ring. Slater, to his credit though, is no slouch and manages to force Ron Bass into the corner, sending several fists into the Cowboy's face, much to the protests of the referee, who gets shoved aside for his complaints before Dick Slater hits a back suplex on Cowboy Ron Bass for a pin attempt. James J. Dillon enters the ring considering that the referee is not currently in the picture, but he gets spotted by Dick Slater and hit with a body slam, resulting in Ron Bass receiving the same before Slater drops a leg drop onto Bass as an exclamation point. The referee is finally out of his daze, and he calls the match off. Your consequences have finally caught up with you, Dick Slater. Enjoy your disqualification, you fool. You never, ever put your hands on an official. Slater goes nuts, unleashing hell on both Cowboy Ron Bass and James J. Dillon. I want this moron fined and suspended. Or is that asking too much, Jimbo Crockett Jr.? Tag team action is next, as the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff and his nephew, the Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff, take on Ole Anderson and his mystery partner on behalf of the Pride of the Carolinas, Don Kernodle, in a grudge match. Keith Larson, Don Kernodle's brother, is Ole Anderson's partner? You know, when Ole Anderson said that he was bringing in someone so big, so mean, so tough, I could have listed off at least a dozen wrestlers fitting that description, and none of them, nowhere even close, resembled Keith Larson. You just signed your own death warrant out of sheer ignorance, Anderson. The United States national anthem, along with a very pro-American light show, is played prior to the match. While the Koloffs emerge to the Soviet Russian national anthem, while the arena is bathed in red light. I have no doubt that somewhere, Nikolai Volkov is incredibly proud of his countrymen's magnificent entrance. Ole Anderson and Keith Larson rush the Russians as soon as the match begins, and to me, that makes a ton of sense, considering they'll need all the advantages they can have if they hope to survive this match. Larson hits a dropkick on Ivan Koloff once the match is officially underway, while he and his partner take turns pounding on the Russian in their corner. Anderson and Larson keep their tags frequent and work over the left arm of the Russian Bear, keeping him separated from his nephew. A double elbow from Ole Anderson and Keith Larson leads to a second elbow from Anderson, resulting in the American receiving a 2 count. Anderson then rams Ivan Koloff's shoulder into the ring post and tags in his partner, and as Keith Larson attempts to charge the Russian Bear, he simply gets a knee in the face for his efforts. This prompts Ivan Koloff to head up to the top rope, but Keith Larson is able to recover in time and catches the Russian, throwing him down to the mat. Finally, Ivan Koloff is able to get a desperate tag that's been needed throughout this entire match thus far to Nikita Koloff, who then goes on a rampage, ramming his shoulder into Ole Anderson's gut over and over once Anderson gets tagged in as well. The Russian Nightmare then places his opponent into a bear hug while the Russian Bear heads up to the top rope again, but this time successfully drops an axe handle down onto the weakened Anderson. Ole Anderson is able to summon what's left of his strength and fights out of the bear hug with fists, rushing to get a tag to Keith Larson. However, he's caught by the Russians before he's able to do so and placed in another bear hug. The animals in the crowd try to muster their American hero on by chanting USA, USA, and surprisingly, it seems to work as Ole Anderson is able to break free yet again, getting that desperate tag needed to Keith Larson, who hits Nikita Koloff with a vicious elbow. Keith Larson, however, then subsequently misses a dropkick and is punished accordingly by Ivan Koloff, as Don Kernodle's brother is draped over the top rope, neck first. Despite this, Larson somehow manages to roll the Russian Bear up for a pin, but it's interrupted as all four men enter the ring and begin to brawl. During the melee, the Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff heads outside of the ring and focuses in on the injured Don Kernodle, hitting him with a massive clothesline, which prompts Ole Anderson to rush to his student's aid. While this is happening, Ivan Koloff is able to knock Keith Larson down and secure the win for his team. Suck eggs, America, the Russians win. The Koloffs attempt to hit the cannon on Keith Larson, but the injured Don Kernodle enters the squared circle and uses his crutches to prevent the action. However, the damage has already been done both figuratively and literally. This was a major win for Ivan and Nikita Koloff, and there is nothing that you can do about it, Kernodle. 3 more championship matches remain. The first is the NWA Television Championship. Ricky Steamboat looks to dethrone Tully Blanchard, even coming out to Survivor's Eye of the Tiger.
And there you see him. Let's go to the ring and calm down.
As if emulating Hulk Hogan will help his already dwindling chances of success. He even high-fives the losers of the previous match. Careful, you might catch idiot-itis. Once Tully Blanchard enters the ring, he tries to shake Ricky Steamboat's hand, but is slapped away. So it's gonna be like that, eh, Steamboat? Okay, have it your way. Both men go at it with fists, but Steamboat is the one to come out on top as he drops a chop down onto Blanchard's head, forcing the champion to head to the ropes. At this time, I'd just like to remind everybody of the stipulations that Ricky Steamboat begged Jim Crockett Jr. to have put in place. If Tully Blanchard stalls for time, which is a valid tactic, but whatever, or gets himself intentionally disqualified, he'll not only lose his $10,000, but the NWA Television Championship as well. With that in mind, Tully Blanchard doesn't go to the floor where he'd normally collect his thoughts, which prompts Ricky Steamboat to suplex the champion back inside the squared circle and then hit another chop onto him for a 2 count. A knee lift from Steamboat knocks Blanchard down moments later, which prompts the champion to reevaluate his in-ring strategy. Instead of stalling, it's time for a full frontal offensive, which Tully Blanchard initiates immediately and hits Ricky Steamboat with a backbreaker, honing in on those injured ribs that Steamboat was stupid enough to identify during his earlier interview with Tony Schiavone. Steamboat is able to get a momentary reprieve moments later as he slams his boot into Tully Blanchard's head, and then moments later drops a knee onto the back of the NWA Television Champion's head for a 2 count. Never count Tully Blanchard out though, as he's able to not only kick out, but go on and hit Ricky Steamboat with a back suplex before keeping his distance to shake the cobwebs loose. Oh, and remember when Steamboat slapped away Blanchard's offer of sportsmanship with a handshake at the beginning of the match? Yeah, eat it, Ricky. Infuriated, Ricky Steamboat is able to hit Tully Blanchard with a power slam as the champion comes off of the ropes, and then goes over to the corner and slams Blanchard's head into the turnbuckle. Ricky takes it further, going up onto the second rope and begins pounding his fist into Blanchard's head, resulting in the NWA Television Champion getting cut open. How unprofessional and unsportsmanlike! Ricky Steamboat should be disqualified right here, but that referee goes on to count another near fall on the champion following a swinging neck breaker. To add insult to injury, Steamboat even goes on to hit Blanchard's own slingshot suplex, but again, it's only a 2 count. Since Ricky Steamboat's playing dirty, Tully Blanchard can as well, so the champion reaches into his trunks and retrieves some brass knuckles. He misses the initial haymaker, but he manages to get a jab in on Steamboat following a back suplex. The NWA television champion then hoists the challenger up onto the top rope and attempts to hit a superplex, but it's blocked, resulting in Ricky Steamboat hitting a splash from the top rope. Near fall. Oh, thank goodness. I mean, of course it was a near fall. Ricky Steamboat attempts a sunset flip, but Tully Blanchard once more employs those brass knuckles, jabbing Steamboat in the head to get the 1-2-3. Tully Blanchard is still your NWA television champion, and he is now $10,000 richer. Call your bank because you are now out of business, Ricky. The NWA United States Heavyweight Championship is on the line next. The hand-picked challenger from Jim Crockett Jr. and the NWA Board of Directors, Superstar Billy Graham, takes on Chief Wahoo McDaniel for the championship. While Graham heads down to the ring to Carl Douglas's Kung Fu Fighting,
Everybody was Kung Fu fighting!
he's barely able to employ any Kung Fu moves at all once the match begins. Each man jockeys for position once the bell rings, before Chief McDaniel is Irish whipped into the corner chest first and immediately placed into Graham's full Nelson, which the champion is able to break out of by getting to the ropes. The superstar once more manages to knock Chief McDaniel down with a chomp, and again locks on his full Nelson, getting a near fall in the process. Chief Wahoo McDaniel is a fighting champion, however, and moments later gets a nasty chop to Billy Graham's neck, resulting in a 3 count for the Chief. I told you so! I told you so! Before we get to the main event, Tony Schiavone is backstage once again, and this time he has the 3 judges for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship match standing by for an interview. Retired wrestler Duke Keomuka, famous boxer Smokin' Joe Frazier, and NASCAR driver Kyle Petty. If the match between the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and the Nature Boy Ric Flair goes past the 60-minute time limit, it'll be up to these 3 men to make the decision on who wins. All 3 men say the same thing. Not only are they looking forward to the match, but all 3 of them will remain as impartial as they possibly can be should the decision come down to them. The moment that we've been waiting for has finally arrived. $1 million is up for grabs, as well as the top prize in the entire National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. It's the American Dream Dusty Rhodes challenging the champion, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Purple Rain by Prince accompanies Dusty Rhodes down to the ring, while Ric Flair uses the same song that he used to taunt his opponent weeks earlier in It's Hard to Be Humble by Mac Davis. Not only will he serve as a judge should it come down to the wire, but Smokin' Joe Frazier is also the acting special guest referee, and once he starts the match, a shoulder block leading into an elbow from Dusty Rhodes hits Ric Flair. Flair responds with a chop in the corner, but Rhodes fights back with jabs and then knocks his opponent down with an elbow before latching a headlock onto him. After releasing the hold, the American Dream hits another elbow onto the Nature Boy's head before missing a second one on the mat. This allows Ric Flair to snapmare Dusty Rhodes and drop an elbow of his own onto Dusty's ugly face for a 2 count. The champion misses a knee moments later, which allows the challenger to lock Flair's own figure 4 leg lock onto him, but the Nature Boy is able to break free by getting to the ropes. Dusty Rhodes is the first to his feet, and he hits Ric Flair with a body slam before hitting a chop moments later, sending Flair down to the mat in a haze. The American Dream then Irish whips the Nature Boy so hard that Ric Flair crashes and burns over the top rope and down onto the floor below. Dusty Rhodes suplexes Ric Flair back into the ring, but it only results in a 2 count. The NWA World Heavyweight Champion then goes up to the top rope, but gets caught by the challenger and thrown down to the mat. Flair then attempts to latch a sleeper hold onto Rhodes, but is flung through the ropes and down onto the floor once more. But this time, the Nature Boy brings the American Dream with him and shoves Dusty Rhodes head first into the ring post. A nasty cut develops over the top of Dusty Rhodes' right eye, and once back in the ring, Ric Flair hones in on the cut and goes to town on it with several punches, prompting Dusty Rhodes to defend himself with punches of his own and an elbow. Smokin' Joe Frazier then inserts himself into the fray, shoving Ric Flair aside as he checks on Dusty Rhodes before calling the match off.
No, wait a minute, what's happening here? Hold up.
Who cares what Smokin' Joe Frazier's reasonings were? He awards the match to the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, and finally, I'm able to wake up from this American nightmare that Dusty Rhodes has put me through for the past several months. Woo! Rhodes is so infuriated that he has to be held back by several wrestlers from the backstage area as he goes after both Flair and Frazier. Seed, Maul, Cope. Tony Schiavone catches the Nature Boy Ric Flair backstage while the winner gleefully holds up his check for $1 million and says that while the circumstances surrounding his win are unfortunate, it's not his problem, as he accomplished what he'd said he'd do by walking away as the winner. Woo! Tony Schiavone then catches up with the infuriated Dusty Rhodes, who's with his NWA World Tag Team Championship partner, the raging loser Manny Fernandez. The American Dream says that he's never had a match stopped due to a cut before, and takes issue with Smokin' Joe Frazier himself, citing the fact that this is professional wrestling, not boxing, going so far as to even threaten Frazier.
This is wrestling, Joe Frazier! This ain't boxing! Somewhere, someplace, I'm gonna get you, Joe Frazier! This ain't over!
You better believe it's over, pal. You had your chance and you blew it. The final interview of Starrcade 84 is with the special guest referee himself, as Tony Schiavone asks Smokin' Joe Frazier why he stopped the match.
The cut was really bad. It was old man right eye. How could he continue like that?
He's right. What if blood had gotten into Rhodes' eye? What if the American Dream bled so much that he passed out? And what if Dusty ended up losing his eye in the long run if the match were allowed to continue? Smokin' Joe Frazier made the right call, and the better man won. Woo! With that, Starrcade 84 comes to an end, and what an event! We had 2 championships change hands, as Mike Davis ended up losing the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship to Denny Brown, and the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez took control and gained the NWA Brass Knuckles Championship in his match against the champion at the time, Black Bart. Tully Blanchard not only successfully defended his NWA Television Championship against Ricky Steamboat, but walked away with an extra $10,000 in his pocket. Chief Wahoo McDaniel survived Jim Crockett Jr. and the NWA Board of Directors' selection in superstar Billy Graham and kept his NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. Paul Jones won the long and bloody war against the Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant, forcing Valiant to leave Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, and the Nature Boy Ric Flair successfully defended his NWA World Heavyweight Championship against the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and walked away with $1 million. Before I go, I want to know what you think. Did Smokin' Joe Frazier make the right call, or were you hoping for a different outcome? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for tuning in to another special episode of Tyler Vance Rants. Make the right call by liking the video, hitting the bell, and subscribing so you never miss an episode. You can also enrich your life by following me on social media. That's it for now. So long. However, it's not long before Mr. Oh geez, but Assassin number 1 unnecessarily inserts himself into the match, which allows the challenger to latch a headlock. Co-holder of the NWA World Tag Team Championships with Rhodes, the Amazing Grace. I screwed that up.